Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am back to play another virtual concert for you. Thanks so much for listening. I see I've got friends in Pennsylvania and Seattle, Washington already tuned in. And tonight's concert is called Treasures from the Sheet Music Collection. I did this once about a year ago as well, and I think I had some streaming issues that night, so let's do it again. I pulled out a couple of the songs that I did last year, as well as some different ones. And I thought, let's start with one of the classic rags by Scott Joplin. Of course, ragtime is where all of the great American popular music comes from. So it's appropriate to start my concerts with pieces like this. And here's an original copy of it from 1901, Scott Joplin's The Easy Winners. Thank you so much, folks. That's one of the classic rags by Scott Joplin. He was among the first guys to figure out how to write down syncopated music, which in more simple terms is ragged time. That's basically what the word means, and it became a distinctive feature of all American popular music. And as we go through some of the music from my collection tonight, I'm going to take you on a little journey through history. We're going to go through the early music and then wind up with a couple of special songs that I learned for tonight that are actually 1950s pop songs. But anyhow, let's keep going here with a couple of other tunes. Here's another one I have on the piano by Creamer and Layton. I collect music by the great African-American songwriting duo of Henry Creamer and Turner Layton. And this was their most famous song. This is the original copy of it. It's called After You've Gone. And I don't know if this is a very rare piece of music, but this came out in 1918, which was right during World War I, and they had a paper shortage. So they cut down the music from this large size, which was 11 by 14, to the 9 by 12, which you saw for decades after that. And so I was thrilled that I finally found the large format edition of After You've Gone in the collection of my late friend Mike Schwartz from Baltimore, Maryland. That's where this came from. So we're going to do After You've Gone, complete with the original verse to the tune. After You've Gone. Well, I mentioned that I collect Creamer and Layton. So here's another one of the tunes that I did the last time I did a live stream devoted to my sheet music collection. I just found this last fall, and this is interesting. It's from a little bit later in the career of Henry Creamer. This is a tune from 1929 now called Remarkable Girl. It was recorded by Ted Weems and his orchestra, one of the best bands of the period. And the music to this was written by Lou Handman, who wrote the famous tune, Are You Lonesome Tonight? And it's unusual, a little bit unusual that Henry Creamer, who was an African-American composer, wrote, primarily lyricist, I think. He wrote with many white songwriters, which was kind of unusual in that day. That time. One of the only other guys who did that a lot was Maceo Pinkard. But anyway, now let's do Remarkable Girl. This is from 1929. Something like that. Remarkable Girl. Thank you, folks. Well, if you're just tuning in, thanks for listening tonight. And I do accept virtual tips for these concerts. All you have to do is send in a tip on PayPal or Venmo, just like we were in person. And I appreciate that, no obligation, but a little bit here and there does add up. And it's helped a lot with my career getting to do these concerts. Hi to Sandy Williams there in Duluth, Minnesota. My gosh, it's really, I still enjoy this because I get to connect with people from all over the world. Somebody asked me what key I played after you've gone, and it's written in C, and the original sheet music has slightly different chords than a lot of the jazz musicians use. You know, the other thing you might do, if you enjoy this music, hit the like button. If you're watching, yeah, we got almost 60 people watching on Facebook. Only 19 have clicked the like button. It really helps me with the social media algorithms. So go ahead and do that. Share it in any way that you like. And I've got some more tunes planned to play for you. Let's go back to the Ragtime era, and I'm going to do a tune that is a famous old song that they would sing in saloons and so forth. I think I'm one of the only people that plays it very often now, and I finally found an original copy of the music to this. I have not pulled out the original sheet music for every song that I'm going to play tonight. That would take too long. This is from about 1909. It's called Ace in the Hole. See how many of you know this? folks, there's the ace in the hole. Some of them write to their old folks for coin. That's their old ace in the hole. And there's some other lines about gambling and so forth. That tune, like I said, came out about 1909, and I was finally able to get an original copy from the Johnny Maddox collection. And the chords, again, in the original music are not the way everybody plays it. My performance of that is kind of the generic version with, you might call it the vernacular chordal structure. There's a number of songs that are just played that way based on the way that jazz bands have played them for decades. Oh my goodness, Charles says, we used to sing Ace in the Hotel back in 1950 in Juneau, Alaska, when I worked for the Alaska Road Commission. Charles, did you know Ragtime Bob Darch? Because he played up in Alaska in those days. I think he might have worked for, well, he was in the Army. I think he did some road work too. That's very interesting. One of the tunes that I was really thrilled to find last year, we're going to do an early jazz number now from 1924 or thereabouts, and I found this at Sandy Marone's house. Sandy has the largest private collection of sheet music in the country, probably in the whole world, and she is a sweet lady. I feel privileged to correspond with her. She's helped me find a lot of music, and in that way I learn about a lot of these great songs, some of which have been forgotten. And Sandy, well, she gave me a copy of this because it was folded, but it's called the Sugarfoot Stomp. It's written by King Oliver. King Oliver and his Creole Jazz Band recorded it, and they did it under a slightly different name. They did it under the name Dippermouth Blues, but it's more commonly known as the Sugarfoot Stomp, and I loved it so much when I found the music. I've been playing it ever since. So let's do it now. Sugarfoot Stomp. Okay, Charles doesn't remember Bob Darch. You ought to get the book about him and read it. Pretty interesting. And there's the Sugarfoot Stomp. Thank you, folks. That's written by Joe Oliver, or King Oliver, who's the man that helped give Louis play Please send in requests tonight if you've got any. I've got plenty of time in the program that I've prepared for requests. I don't want to play nothing but obscure music tonight, even though, as many of you probably know, I enjoy doing that. Getting to play these songs that are really great that most people don't remember. Don't see too many requests coming in yet, that at least that I know by heart. So let me keep going down the program here, and I'll play for you an early blues tune. And this is on that list of songs that I would love to find. Sheet music that I have not been able to find yet. We're going to do a song by Maceo Pinkard, who is the great composer that wrote Sweet Georgia Brown. This is from 1922. And it's called the Potomac River Blues. It was recorded by Fletcher Henderson and his orchestra. And I have a Xerox copy of the music, but I've never been able to find an original copy, and I've never even seen the cover of the music. It must be out there somewhere. Dave is asking what the theme for tonight's concert is. No, it's not obscure music. I'm doing songs from the sheet music collection, which... well, most of them are kind of obscure. I tried to start with some that were a little bit more familiar. Right now we're going to do the Potomac River Blues. There we go. Hope you like that, folks. That's the Potomac River Blues. I've got some people commenting, well, we'll help you look for the sheet music for that. Good luck. I've been looking for 15 years. Sandy Marone doesn't have it. Johnny Maddox didn't have it. I don't know anybody that does, but I sure would love to find it. Any requests, folks, please send them in either on Facebook or YouTube. Smoky Mokes, that's not a bad idea. And Tickled to Death, the rag by Charles Hunter. Yeah, I can play both of those by heart. Hey, Dave Tucker's listening tonight. So good to hear from you, Dave. I think I'll do Smoky Mokes Tickled to Death was a big hit. Well, so was Smoky Mokes. I have original copies of those, so kind of fits into the theme for tonight's concert. This is what you call a cakewalk, actually, which was a dance that was very popular early in the ragtime era. And it was written by a man named Abe Holzman, one of the Tin Pan Alley writers. Here's Smoky Mokes. Smoky Mokes. Thank you, folks. Probably won't hear that anywhere else tonight. Phil Martin says he spent quite a bit of time with Bob Darch. Oh, the Alexandria Bay Ragtime Festival. You know, that's one of the only ones that I have never played at. I don't know if it's still going or not. I know they actually used to do it twice a year. It must have been quite fun and successful. And I really wish I could have known Bob. He was one of the ragtime revivalists in the 1950s. I admire his work quite a bit. A lot of people just think of him as a saloon piano player, but he did a lot of research and interviewed a lot of the surviving ragtime composers. Nobody else did that as much as Bob Darch. And if you happen to be coming to the Scott Joplin Ragtime Festival in Sedalia, Missouri, the first week of June, I will be there, and I am doing a seminar. It's not about Bob and his life particularly, but it's about one of the albums that he produced in 1962 called The Golden Reunion in Ragtime. I wrote my master's thesis about that album. So this is an entire seminar, which is a study of this one recording session. And unfortunately, it's on the first day of the festival at 9 o'clock in the morning, which, as you can imagine, for a musician is very painful. But oh, I've got a request here for Some of These Days by Shelton Brooks. Maybe I'll go ahead and play that. It's nice to get some requests that I happen to know by heart, so I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of the situation and play that tune for you. Most of the copies of the music to that you see, it has kind of a green or brown cover to it, and there are many pictures of different performers on the cover, including Sophie Tucker, of course, who introduced the song, but I have the very first edition of Some of These Days from 1910, which has a yellow cover and a drawing of a couple dancing on the cover of the music. So anyhow, here's my little take on Some of These Days. Some of these days you're gonna miss me, honey. Thanks, folks. I see some good requests here on Facebook, but unfortunately, I'd have to pull out the sheet music to play most of them. It has to be something I kind of know by heart. Because the theme for tonight's concert is songs from the sheet music collection, I am using a little bit more sheet music than normal, but I have practiced these tunes ahead of time and even copied the music in some cases. So I think I saw one I can do, though. Well, not yet. I don't know Trey Moutard by heart. I'd have to dig out the music. Hard-Hearted Hannah is a terrific tune. I've got to memorize that. And 12th Street Rag and Tiger Rag, I guess I could use one of those as a finale for tonight's concert. They don't really fit in with the theme, to be honest with you, but I could do it for you if you don't mind waiting just a minute here. Let me tell you about a piece of music that I was really thrilled to find. And this is one of the New Orleans jazz tunes from 1919, I believe. And because it's from that year, it's kind of unusual that it was printed in large format. I was telling you about After You've Gone. Well, the tune by Clarence and Spencer Williams called I Ain't Gonna Give Nobody None of This Jelly Roll was also printed in large format, and I think it's quite rare, and I finally found a copy on eBay, and I know it by heart now, so let me play that for you. I ain't gonna give nobody none of this jelly roll. Folks, I ain't gonna give nobody none of this jelly roll. I ain't gonna give you a piece of this cake to save your soul. My ma told me today, this very day, if I was a good boy, she'd buy me a toy. Now I'm my mama's baby boy. I ain't no use for you to keep on hanging around. You know I love you, but I hate to turn you down. I know you want it, you can't have it, because I ain't gonna give you none. That was 1919 humor. Let me show you one of the pieces here on the piano, which is quite rare. I don't even remember where I got this. This is from a black Broadway show called Messin' Around, and I believe it's 1928 or thereabouts. Oh, 29. Close enough. Music by Jimmy Johnson, James P. Johnson, and words by Perry Bradford, the man that wrote Crazy Blues. And this is pretty obscure, but it's very much in with the jazz language of the period. The style of the tune is like, the name of the song is almost like scat singing, Skiddly Scow. Again, you won't hear this anywhere else tonight, but I have always loved the recording of this tune made by James P. Johnson and his orchestra. I think Perry Bradford might sing on it. And there's some other songs from this show. I would love to find some more, but this is the only one I've ever found. So let me play it for you now. I'll try and imitate the style of James P. just a little bit. Skiddly Scow from 1929. Thank you, folks. Got a request from Akimi for Jelly Roll Morton's Finger Breaker. It's funny you mention that. Just recently I was able to find the original 78 record of that tune. I bet I have been looking for the original 78 of Jelly Roll Morton playing well, the original title was Finger Buster. I don't know how it got changed along in there somewhere, but I've been looking for that for probably 15 or 16 years, and turns out there were 2 or 3 copies on eBay. So I've been thinking about relearning that. I may do that pretty soon. Well, a couple of weeks down the road, it'll have to be at least. But I got a request from Audrey Van Dyke, who's another sheet music collector, to do a song by Willard Robeson. And it was kind of a last-minute request, but I'm going to try and fulfill that now. And I played a couple of his tunes a few weeks ago. He was a really unique songwriter in the 1920s and 30s. Actually, his career extended well into the 1950s. And his most famous tune came out in 1930. It was called A Cottage for Sale. and I have played that, but we're not going to do that. We're going to do a sort of a blues here, and let's see what the date is. It's 1925, and this is called Deep Elm, You Tell 'Em I'm Blue. This is named for the Deep Elm neighborhood in Dallas, Texas. They pronounce it Deep Elm down there, and that was a neighborhood in Dallas, Texas. It was kind of similar to Beale Street in Memphis, Tennessee. It was full of a lot of music and nightclubs. I imagine it was primarily an African-American neighborhood. And so that's what this tune is named after, Deep Elm. And I pulled out the music. Hopefully Audrey's listening. And I'll play it for you now. I intend to do more Willard Robeson down the line as well. He wrote some novelty piano solos, which would be really fun for me to try and play. I see, Audrey says she saw it on the piano and knew it was coming. This is actually one of Robeson's more well-known tunes, but one of the easier ones for me to play at the last minute here. And I saw a question from Kevin about my arrangements. No, I do not play everything exactly the way it's written on the page, like the James P. Johnson tune, Skiddly Scal. I was adding some notes to it here and there. Not a whole lot. I never like to lose the melody too much. I find, like many things in life, there's a kind of a balance there. Well, now here's Deep Elm, You Tell 'Em I'm Blue. Deep Elm, You Tell 'Em I'm Blue. Thanks, folks. I only had time to sight read that about once before tonight's concert, but I thought it was worth playing. I love his quirky, bluesy music. We'll do some more Willard Robeson and another concert for sure. I got a request ahead of time before the concert to do a song that has been a favorite of mine for a long time. It's It's a pretty well-known ballad. We'll see how many of you recognize it. And it was featured in a 1929 Dolores Costello movie, very early talking picture. Sadly, the movie has been lost. And I also have a copy of the music for this without the movie cover, so it may have been written prior to the movie. That may be the very first edition of it, I don't know. It's called Glad Rag Doll. So let me play this ballad for you. I do it with another tune from the mid-30s. This is one from the sheet music archives, you might say, and it's called Tormented, which was featured by Ina Ray Hutton and her all-girl orchestra. So here's a medley of Glad Rag Doll and Tormented. so much, folks. That's Glad Ragdoll and Tormented. Johnny used to say that Tormented kind of sounds like Moonglow, which it does. He played both of those tunes together with Glad Ragdoll, and I think it works beautifully. Oh, excuse me, I'm still having allergy attacks, I suppose. Well, what else would you like to hear? Give me a kind of a lively request here now, folks. We've done a blues and a ballad. Could use something lively. No, afraid I don't know Gladiolus Rag by heart. I did some Scott Joplin earlier in the concert tonight. Russell Robinson, well, there's a request that I love. He's one of my favorite songwriters. He wrote Margie in the early 1920s and a number of other tunes that people might know. That's probably the best one of his tunes that I could play for you. Let me think if there's something else I could do. I know that one the best, so let's do Margie. Margie, anyway, and we're a little over halfway through the program, so let me mention real quick that I do accept virtual tips for these concerts. I imagine there's a few folks tuning in that have never listened, and all you have to do is send in a tip on PayPal or Venmo, just like we were in person. And if you don't trust PayPal, well, I don't blame you, and I have a P.O. box on my website for checks as well. Speaking of player piano rolls, J. Russell Robinson, the songwriter, made a whole lot of them for QRS, more than I realized for a long time. And you can't see it, but hanging on the wall right up there is an incredible thing that, well, my dad purchased it actually. It's 4 autographed pictures of QRS player piano roll artists, including Russell Robinson. And I tried to show that. I took it off the wall for one of my broadcasts. I may do that again when I do a piano roll night. I may do that again before too long. But anyhow, let me play one of the other songs that I have sitting on the piano. There's a couple more that I planned ahead of time. This is one of the treasures of my sheet music collection. And I played it once before, I think, but we're going to do it again. We're going into the 1930s now, and I'm going to play a song for you. It was actually composed by Mickey Rooney, with lyrics by Sidney Miller, another famous child star of the 1930s. And you can see that's Judy Garland on the cover of the music with Mickey. And I just realized today that her name is not even on the cover of this music. I guess in those days everybody knew who she was. And this is a beautiful tune. I think it's probably the best of Mickey's songs. And written in 1939, Judy recorded it on Decca Records. So here is Oceans Apart. Thank you so much, everyone. That's Oceans Apart, music by Mickey Rooney, believe it or not. He wrote a number of songs over the course of his life, and that one's my favorite. I think it's real beautiful. One of my regular listeners, Wayne Lawless, was good friends with Judy Garland. Let me see. Are you listening tonight, Wayne? I haven't seen any comments yet. Hope you got to hear that, because I'm going to be doing another Judy Garland song for you. Hey, we've got Blind Boy Paxton on the line tonight. How cool. He's one of the, in my opinion, one of the neatest vintage musicians out there. Plays multiple instruments. I'm going to do a couple of special songs for you now that I've been planning all night. And I have to tell you a little bit about him here real quick. And this is because I have been researching a 1950s popular songwriter named Phillip Springer. Aha! And I think his daughter's listening now. I discovered Phil Springer through Facebook, believe it or not. Saw videos of him playing the piano. And this is the man that wrote Santa Baby in 1953. And because of my love of this old sheet music, I was just fascinated to find more of his songs, and I've been trying to find as many as I can. Phil is 96 and still playing the piano. After the Tin Pan Alley period, which is what they called the music publishing business in New York. After Tin Pan Alley kind of died off, a lot of the songwriters in New York moved into the Brill Building, which is where Phil Springer worked, starting in the late 1940s, actually. And I have, like I say, I've been tracking down a few of his songs, and so thanks to his daughter Tamar, just had a couple of them autographed this week. So let me show them to you. I'm not taking them out of the plastic sleeves here, but I bet you that Phil is the only living songwriter who wrote for Judy Garland. In the early 1950s, Judy went through a period where she didn't make too many movies. But she recorded about 2 or 3 records for Columbia Records. And this is one of the songs. It was called Heartbroken. And you can see Phil sign it for me this week. Phil wrote it with Fred Ebb, who was, Phil was one of Fred Ebb's first collaborators. And Fred Ebb, of course, later went on to work with John Kander of Kander and Ebb. They wrote the wonderful musicals Cabaret in Chicago. And here we have another one of Phil's most popular songs, which he wrote for Frank Sinatra in 1956. This is called How Little It Matters, How Little We Know. Very poignant title. And let's see, Heartbroken is quite a rare song, I think. I was so thrilled to find that, and just couldn't resist sending it to Phil and his family. So now I'm going to make a medley out of these 2 songs and perform them for you now. Some of the more interesting pop songs of the 1950s. Heartbroken from 1953, and How Little We Know, which dates from 56. you so much, everyone. There's my little tribute to a popular songwriter named Phillip Springer for the night. I was talking about my friend Sandy earlier. She's found a couple more of his songs for me, and I should be getting them in the mail tomorrow or the next day. I'm so excited about it. She found one for me that Phil wrote in 1954, the year after he wrote Santa Baby. It's called I Want Eddie Fisher for Christmas. I can't wait to see what the picture on the cover of the music looks like. But I may do some more of his music. It is really beautiful, isn't it? Things like that really fascinate me, and honored to have his daughter listening tonight. Phil lives out in Pacific Palisades, California. Well, what else would we like to hear tonight, folks? I've got about 30 more minutes for the concert. Let me know. I'm sorry I have to stand up and down like that, but I'm switching between YouTube and Facebook. I did get a request for Tiger Rag. I think I might end the concert with that tonight, but I'm not quite ready for that. Yeah. Good. Thanks, Kevin. He says he's enjoying many new-to-me songs tonight. And as you know, I love doing these songs that a lot of people don't remember. I think there's so many great songs that have been forgotten. The new ones just don't do it for me. Ooh, that's an interesting request. Got a request for Lucky Roberts here from Blind Boy Paxton. And I could switch gears and do that for you now. Which one should I do? I've gotten some, let's go way back to the Ragtime years now. I've gotten some requests the last few weeks from one or two people for the Junkman Rag. Maybe I will play that for you now. How does that sound? And I do it in the original key, D flat, which is a very difficult key, and G flat. That's how Lucky Roberts wrote it. It's not in the key of C, the people's key, as the sheet music goes. But anyway, let's try Junkman Rag. Junk Man Rag. Thank you, folks. I wasn't thinking about playing that tonight, but what the heck. I don't know how you knew I liked Lucky Roberts so much. Yeah, he was one of the very greatest of all the ragtimers. I want to do a song for you that we're talking about collecting this old sheet music tonight. This is another one in the file of I wish I could find it. And this is a tune by famous Ten Pan Alley Broadway composers Arthur Schwartz and Howard Dietz. Schwartz and Dietz wrote most of the music for a 1929 Broadway show called The Little Show. And it was so popular they did the second Little Show and the third Little Show. But this was, what's odd is this tune was not a hit when it first came out, and then over the years it became a bigger hit. And I have a later printing of the song, but I do not have the original printing from the 1929 Broadway show. This is a tune called I Guess I'll Have to Change My Plan, and the arrangement was inspired by Peter Menton, the great society pianist from, well, originally San Francisco, but now he lives in New York. I love the way he played this song so much I may have borrowed it. I guess I'll have to change my plan. Thank you very much, folks. Yeah, that song was also used in the movie The Bandwagon because Schwartz and Dietz wrote the music for The Bandwagon. That was probably their most famous musical. And I love that tune. I guess I'll have to change my plan. I should have realized there'd be another man. I should have bought something about blue pajamas. I bought those blue pajamas before the whole affair began. So it's subtitled The Blue Pajama Song. And why that is, I don't know. Let me do Kicking the Clouds Away. This has become one of my favorite Gershwin tunes, and I finally learned it with a lot of the licks from the hand-played duo art piano roll of Gershwin himself. And I sort of have an original copy of the music to this. I haven't been able to find the American edition, but I have the British edition. It's from a more obscure 1925 Broadway show, and oh darn, I'm going to blank on the name of it too. That's because it's a Gershwin show that nobody remembers. Let me try Kicking the Clouds Away. Here we go. There it is. Kicking the Clouds Away. Thank you, folks. Follow the dancing crowds and kick all the clouds away. Yeah, that's what we try and do during my concerts. Somebody's asking me if my piano's a half-step flat. No, it certainly isn't. Maybe your guitar is off. That tune's in key of E flat. Anyhow, I'm probably just going to play one more tune for you tonight. And I got requests for this ahead of time. And I tell you what, well, earlier in the program, and I tell you why it fits in. This is another one of those tunes where I would really love to find the original edition of the sheet music. I've never found the original copy, which dates back to 1917, and it would have the original Dixieland Jazz Band on the cover of the music, because this is Tiger Rag. And I've been trying to spruce up my arrangement of it because it's one of those tunes that doesn't hurt to tell you, I get just really sick of it. And I think the most incredible performance of this tune, if you look on YouTube, it's Morten Gunnar Larsen, the ragtime pianist from Norway, who is probably the best in the entire world. And he includes the original French quadrilles on which the beginning of the piece is based. So I will do that. And then the rest of the arrangement is really more like the way Jelly Roll Morton played it, which I think is the most musically interesting if you have to choose. And so let's do the famous Tiger Rag now for you. Here we go. Starting with the French quadrilles. Thank you so much, everybody. There's the Tiger Rag. And with that, I think I'm going to poop out for the evening. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Thanks for listening. And thanks also for those tips. I really appreciate it, even if I can't thank all of you individually. And unfortunately, I will be gone for quite a while. I mentioned the Old Time Piano Championship coming up next weekend. And after that, I will be at the Scott Joplin Festival in Sedalia, Missouri. Please come to my seminar at 9 o'clock in the morning, so I'm not the only one there if you're coming to Sedalia. And I think the next opportunity I will have to do a virtual concert will be about Sunday, June 12th. So please keep that in mind, and I will remind folks on Facebook when the time comes as usual. And I'm not sure what the theme for the concert will be. I might do something easy like classic ragtime night. Before too long, I want to do another tribute to piano roll artists as well. Let me know what you'd like to hear. And that's Sunday, June 12th on Facebook and YouTube both. I hope to see you all then. Thanks again, and good night for now.